Hey, before we begin tonight, I wanted to share a quick note with you. My name is Manny, I'm one of the team members and producers behind the channel. Owen Thorne, the familiar voice you've come to know and trust, will be stepping away starting next week to begin a new chapter of his own. Owen asked me to thank you sincerely for letting his voice be a part of your evenings, your rest, and your peace. The stories will continue, just with a new voice to guide you. And we know you'll welcome him with the same warmth you've always had starting next week.
Take a moment to let all the busyness of your day drift away. Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, where peaceful imaginations can cradle you into a gentle slumber. As you settle in, notice the heaviness in your eyelids and the quiet beat of your heart as it grows slower, calmer. Picture yourself in a warm, softly lit space, free of responsibilities and demands. The air around you feels serene, its stillness broken only by the slow, comforting rhythm of your own breath. In this moment, there is no rush, no hurried thought to distract you from the peace that awaits. Inhale slowly, feeling your chest expand. Then exhale even more slowly, allowing any lingering tension to slip away with each gentle breath. Let the day's concerns gently melt into the distance. Each inhale gathers all those minor worries, and each exhale releases them, bit by bit, into the quiet darkness that surrounds you. A gentle light flickers, hinting at a realm of velvety nights and murmuring waters. You might catch the scent of distant lilies, their soft perfume drifting on the faintest breeze. In your imagination, the delicate hush of evening unfolds, glimmers of moonlight rippling on a vast river that seems to stretch into eternity. You feel a subtle warmth against your skin, perhaps from torchlight reflecting off ancient stones, inviting you deeper into a realm of comfort and discovery. Your senses relax, and a calm sense of anticipation stirs somewhere deep within. Here, in the soft glow before you, is a story set along a legendary Nile night, offering refuge and rest. Now, gently set aside any active role you might feel compelled to play. Give yourself permission to let the imagination guide you. There's no rush to grasp details or conjure vivid images unless they arrive naturally. Breathe in the promise of tranquility, then breathe out, allowing your mind to float effortlessly. Soon, you will journey to a land of gently swaying reeds, distant flutes playing lullabies beneath a moonlit sky, and the quiet presence of a regal queen, more serene than history often tells. Breathe in, breathe out. The transition is gentle, effortless. Let the story unfold at its own slow, soothing pace. Long ago, along the banks of the Nile, there was an especially tranquil evening when the moon was full and high. Its pale light draped every reed, stone, and gentle ripple in a silvery sheen, casting quiet reflections across the water's surface. The usually lively chatter of the day had hushed, replaced by the gentle stirrings of nocturnal creatures, an owl's distant call, the rustle of a small lizard slipping through shadowed papyrus. Under a canopy of warm night air, Cleopatra prepared to leave her great palace for a brief escape aboard her personal river barge. She had chosen this night for its magic. The air held a softness that seemed to melt into the skin, carrying on its breeze the scents of lotus blossoms floating near the shore. Cleopatra, ever aware of her surroundings, stepped onto the wide wooden deck of the barge with unhurried grace. The vessel was steady, lit by torches placed at intervals around its edges, each flame dancing in lazy arcs reflected on the water. Soft cushions and embroidered blankets adorned the seating area, offering a luxurious haven for an evening's rest. In her presence, all was calm. Servants moved about in silent respect, each step hushed against the polished deck. The Queen wished to drift along the gentle current and embrace the soothing darkness that had settled upon the Nile. She sought neither ceremony nor spectacle tonight, only a quiet moment to observe the stars and feel connected to the silent wisdom of the river. The mood was serene, with a subdued hush that made every subtle splash of the current and every rustle of cloth feel more pronounced, like part of a nocturnal lullaby. As the barge set off, the gentle push of oars created barely a ripple, so smooth was its movement. The Nile, wide and regal, cradled the vessel without complaint, a mother welcoming her favoured daughter into her arms. Torchlight, reflected on the water, shimmered in a mesmerising dance, as if each flame had a twin in the depths below. Cleopatra leaned against the cushion behind her, letting her eyelids drop ever so slightly, in tune with the slow sway of the boat. The air was gently warm, the kind of warmth that makes each breath feel like a lullaby to the senses. Behind her, a handful of attendants quietly guided the barge, their presence soft-spoken. One offered Cleopatra a delicate goblet filled with cool, flavoured water, infused with subtle hints of mint and chamomile. She accepted it with a slight nod of thanks, sipping slowly, then gazing up at the luminous sky. Stars scattered across the blackness in silken clusters, their reflections glittering on the surface of the river. Each breath she took seemed to synchronize with the timeless pulse of the Nile, enveloping her in a sense of deep belonging. No grand festival or feast was needed this night, just the gentle stillness of water, sky, and the hush of her own thoughts. In the distance, beyond the soft glow of the barge's torches, the riverbanks stretched like softly shadowed silhouettes. Occasionally, a figure along the shore might appear, a lone fisherman checking his nets, or a cluster of reeds swaying to the hush of the breeze. But the world seemed to pause, enveloped in a collective rest, as though every living creature had chosen this moment to bask in the calm. It felt like nature itself took a long, deep breath, allowing Cleopatra to glide further into the heart of tranquility. The Queen was not alone in noticing the magic magic of the night. A small family of ibises, perched on a rock near the river's edge, stood motionless, silhouettes etched against the moonlit water. They watched with quiet curiosity as Cleopatra's barge slipped by, perhaps comforted by the slow, respectful passage of this human vessel. Farther out, the reeds made a gentle, whispery sound when touched by the slight breeze. Even the frogs, usually vocal after dusk, croaked in a subdued chorus, as if they too sensed the queen's desire for a peaceful journey. When Cleopatra set aside her cup, she turned her attention to the deck's edge. Draped across the railing were fragrant garlands, woven earlier by hands that understood the queen's love for subtle floral scents. Pale blossoms with delicate petals, each carrying the faint aroma of honey and spice, offered a comforting presence. She traced her fingertips across the garlands, appreciating the soft texture and letting the aroma linger. Nearby, a small clay censer released a thin wisp of frankincense, an offering of purity that danced upwards in a curling ribbon of scent, mingling with the night air. The barge glided on, away from the palace's looming columns and into a realm of quieter waters. Cleopatra settled deeper into her cushions, her royal robes arranged lightly around her. The fabric, shimmering in torchlight, bore subtle patterns of lotus flowers and swirling vines, images of the life that thrived along the river. Tonight, however, the queen wore no heavy crown, no elaborate adornments. Instead, her braided hair was simply adorned with a slender, glimmering band, giving her the freedom to rest her head against the plush cushions, without regal weight pressing on her thoughts. Time began to feel fluid. The gentle stroke of the oars, measured and rhythmic, turned moments into a continuous lull. In that soothing flow, Cleopatra drifted into a contemplative state. She remembered the days of her youth, running through the palace halls with unbridled energy, feeling the cool stone underfoot, dreaming of the days she would lead her people. Those memories flowed in and out, merging with the present hush of the river. Out here, the burdens of a kingdom felt distant. In their place rose a quiet gratitude for the constancy of the Nile, the calming presence of moon and star, and the gift of small, treasured moments. From time to time, a mild breeze rustled Cleopatra's robe, carrying with it the gentle hum of night insects. The sound was soothing and repetitive, like a lullaby nature offered to anyone willing to pause and listen. Crickets chirped in measured beats, while tiny wings of nocturnal moths fluttered near the torch flames. She watched those flickers of life and felt a tender kinship with them, small as they were, each playing a role in the dance of the night. There was comfort in the realization that, despite the broad expanse of her realm, the simple wonders of nature could still touch her heart. Ahead, the barge approached a wider bend in in the river, where the water's surface gleamed in the moonlight. The path of silver that trailed across the Nile seemed almost tangible, a shimmering road leading into a realm of dreams. Cleopatra's gaze followed that ribbon of light, and for a moment she allowed herself to forget the responsibilities that waited on shore. Instead, she let her mind float among the stars, drifting as peacefully as a cloud on a clear, quiet night. Not far from this bend stood a small island, a hidden gem in the river's expanse. The island was lush, a tangle of palms and flowering shrubs that seemed to have grown without much human interference. Through the gentle hush, the barge found its way to the island's edge, where a natural inlet formed a calm cove. Here, the waters were so still that the moon's reflection lay steady, a mirrored orb that appeared as if it were set into the liquid surface itself. Following Cleopatra's earlier instruction, the oarsman guided the boat carefully into this tranquil spot. There, the vessel came to rest, lightly rocking with the subtle shifts in current. The Queen stepped ashore, assisted by a respectful attendant. The sand was soft beneath her sandals, warmed from the heat of the day, yet pleasantly cooled by the night air. Torches remained on the barge, so Cleopatra's eyes quickly adjusted to the darker shadows beneath the palms. Flickers of moonlight peered through the leaves, revealing secret glimmers across the ground. Shells washed ashore and small, round stones polished by the river's timeless caress. She wandered along the water's edge, letting her fingertips trail through the tall grasses that bordered the sand. Each blade was smooth and damp, collecting beads of dew that sparkled like tiny crystals. The island's solitude wrapped around her, a comforting cloak that offered the gentlest of embraces. Occasionally, a faint splash signaled a fish leaping out of the river, perhaps to snatch a floating insect. But otherwise, the hush was almost complete, broken only by the natural music of the evening. While exploring the island, Cleopatra came across a small clearing, surrounded by palm trees that swayed lazily in the breeze. In this clearing, attendants had prepared a simple seating area with soft cushions and a low table. A single lantern burned here, casting a modest glow. She settled onto a cushion, feeling the comforting give beneath her. Overhead, fronds rustled gently, forming a canopy that filtered the moonlight, creating shifting patterns on the ground below. Moving shapes that drifted in tandem with each subtle gust. A servant approached with a small tray of offerings, a sweet pastry glazed with honey, a few grapes that glistened as though kissed by the moon, and a cup of calming hibiscus tea. Cleopatra partook in these lightly, relishing each taste as though the flavors themselves were part of the night's lullaby. She savored the gentle sweetness, letting it meld with the calm that she felt in each breath. Her eyes closed briefly, and in that moment, the queen listened more deeply to the sounds around her. She heard the graceful rustle of palm leaves above, the echo of the Nile's soft current, and the distant, barely audible call of a bird hidden somewhere in the foliage. In such a place, time seemed not to matter. Minutes could feel like hours, or perhaps hours felt like fleeting minutes. Cleopatra felt the weight of day's concerns slip further away, replaced by the gentle hum of living warmth. She recalled the old stories about the goddess of the Nile, how the waters nourished crops and hearts alike. Tonight, she felt that nourishment in the simplest of ways: the hush of water, the glow of moonlight, and the quiet beating of her own heart. In that realization, her shoulders relaxed, and her breathing grew even softer. She thought of the dreams she dreamt as a child. Back then, the world seemed infinite, a tapestry woven of endless possibilities. Even as a ruler, she sought to maintain that sense of wonder, though the duties of governance often overshadowed it. Here, away from the throne, draped in a hush of moonlit magic, she felt the old childlike awe bloom within her once more. There was a freedom in it, a reconnection to the simple joys of existence, to the reassuring cycle of night following day, and day following night. Nearby, a gentle swirl of the Nile's current embraced the island's shoreline, the water swirling in small eddies that gleamed under the moon. Eventually, Cleopatra's gaze fell upon these shifting currents, watching as they traced loops and spirals along the edge of the sand. It reminded her of life's patterns, of the way events sometimes circle back, forming new shapes, forging new paths. Rather than feeling weighed down, she was soothed by this reflection. The currents were not restless. They were simply in motion, guided by the river's steady flow. Some distance away, an attendant softly strummed a lyre, its notes hushed by the space between them. The music carried on the mild breeze like a distant lullaby drifting through the palms. Cleopatra found herself leaning into the sound, letting it mingle with her heartbeat, her gentle inhalations, her languid exhalations. The melody was slow, each chord lingering in the night air before dissolving into the hush of the island. The softness of the music enriched the scene, as though the night itself had composed this gentle tune for her alone. While the queen rested in that serene clearing, her surroundings seemed to envelop her in a deep and welcoming embrace. The spirit of the Nile, ancient and constant, whispered reassurance. It spoke not in words, but in the luminous reflection of the moon, in the subdued chorus of insects, and in the warmth that emanated from the dark sand underfoot. Here, Cleopatra's regal concerns melted away until all that remained was a sense of reverence for the simple, timeless beauty of nature. Even the mild hum of mosquito wings faint in the distance, became part of the tapestry of silence. As the night grew older, Cleopatra's eyelids grew heavier, drawn downward by a drowsiness that felt not forced, but tender. She eased her position on the cushions, reclined slightly, and let her gaze drift across the palm fronds overhead. The patterns of moonlight through the leaves made slow-moving shadows, like a quiet dance that lured her into rest. Her breathing fell into deeper rhythms, each breath a calm ocean wave, ebbing and flowing along the shores of her consciousness. Eventually, a gentle thought reminded her that the barge waited to carry her back to the palace. But she found no urgency in that reminder. Time was hers tonight. She could choose to stay a little longer, letting the hush of the island cradle her in sweet repose. And so she lingered, eyes half closed, letting the notes of the lyre and the lull of the Nile draw her closer toward a dreamlike state. Somewhere among the shadows of the palms, the moon continued its slow journey across the heavens. By the time Cleopatra rose, she did so with languid grace. She allowed her attendants to gather the cushions and extinguish the small lantern, feeling the glow of contentment settle in her chest. With slow, measured steps, she made her way back to the boat. The path through the sand felt softer now, as though her feet no longer bore the weight of queenship, but glided with the ease of someone who carried only serenity within. On the barge once more, Cleopatra nestled herself into a soft corner, lulled by the gentle sway. The torches still burned, though lower now, their flames a bit more subdued, as if they had grown drowsy along with the night. The reflection of those flames flickered across her face and across the silent river, an echo of the peace she felt in her own mind. Far from the royal halls, far from the clamour of courtiers, she drifted in the hush of moonlit water. The oarsman guided the barge away from the island. The gentle sound of the current lapping against the sides seemed quieter, more intimate than before. Soon, Cleopatra's eyes slid shut, though she was not entirely asleep. In that dreamlike reverie, she could still sense the shifting torches and the soft glow upon her eyelids. She allowed herself to trust the river's current and the steady hands of those who guided her, letting go into the night's embrace. So the barge moved along, quiet as a whisper, tracing the moonlit paths across the surface. From time to time, Cleopatra opened her eyes, just enough to glimpse the dark silhouettes of palm trees along the shore, or the tranquil reflection of a star overhead. But mostly, she let her eyes rest, drifting between wakefulness and slumber. Each long exhale carried away another layer of tension, leaving her with a sense of perfect calm. By the time the vessel neared the palace walls, the moon hung lower in the sky, preparing to yield to the slow approach of dawn. The Queen's barge slipped gently into its berth, and Cleopatra rose softly, her limbs relaxed and her mind at ease. With a final look at the quiet waters, she stepped onto the dock. The palace loomed above, but its grandeur no longer felt imposing. In her heart, she carried the gentle touch of the Nile, the hush of the island, the lull of the night. She moved through the halls, each footstep silent on the stone floors, until she reached the private chamber where she would rest until morning. There too, torches had burned low, their light flickering against cool, polished columns. She eased herself onto her bed, the sheets soft and inviting. The hush of the night still enveloped her, and she sensed that even though she'd returned to her stately abode, the whispering calm of the river would remain with her through her dreams. As Cleopatra drifted into deeper rest, the distant call of a lone night bird echoed faintly in the palace gardens. The gentle hush of the Nile remained imprinted in her memory. Tonight would be a night of seamless, restorative slumber, a balm that only the enchantment of the Nile's timeless flow could provide. The Queen's breathing steadied, and she found her body surrendering fully, letting the drift of sleep carry her away on a tide of restful dreams. Now, as the night continues its tranquil procession, your own thoughts can become as soft as those moonlit ripples. Each breath you take is gentle and slow, guiding you to a place of deeper comfort. Let your shoulders ease, feeling the weight of the day melt into the background. As your eyelids grow heavy, you can imagine the hush of the Nile carrying you effortlessly along. Like Cleopatra, you have found a hidden cove of quiet, a haven where each breath nourishes your spirit and beckons you to sink into a sweeter calm. The gentle lull of this story soothes your mind. There is nothing more you need to do. The night is here, full of soft, warm darkness that cradles you. The rhythm of your heart slows, and with each inhalation, you draw in the calm from ancient waters. With each exhalation, you release the day's tensions, sending them drifting away like leaves on the current. The hush grows deeper, the sense of safety stronger. Feel your body sinking into a blissful state of rest, held tenderly by the soft surface beneath you. The flow of the river echoes in your mind, a timeless cradle of comfort that invites you to drift and dream. Let your limbs grow heavier, your thoughts quieter. Inhale gently, exhale fully. Listen to the silence within, where calm and comfort reside. The night is peaceful. The story weaves into dreams, guiding you toward a deep and restorative sleep. Close your eyes completely now, dear traveler. The hush of Cleopatra's Nile night lingers, a quiet promise of restful slumber. Allow yourself to float in that gentle space where the only rhythm is your steady breath and the soft lull of an ancient river. Good night, dear traveler, Sleep well.